My name is Claire Bennett, 28 years old. I grew up in a house where I was always invisible, standing in the shadow of my perfect sister. No matter how hard I tried, I was never enough. Every effort I made felt wasted, but I kept pushing, hoping for a moment of love. That moment never came. The day before her wedding, I misplaced a box of decorations I had spent weeks preparing. One small mistake was enough to set my parents off like fire. They shouted, their faces full of rage, as if I had ruined her entire wedding. "You never do anything right," my mother snapped, eyes sharp with anger. My father glared coldly and added, "The best gift you could give your sister is to stay out of this family for good." The words crushed me, a mix of betrayal and heartbreak burning inside. How could my own parents wish me gone? I did not beg, I did not cry. I picked up my keys, walked out the door, and never looked back. The next day, I did not attend the wedding. I watched it through a live stream instead. She smiled in her dress. My parents raised their glasses with pride. It was as if erasing me had lifted a weight off their shoulders. But inside me, something changed. Not weakness, but fire. If they wanted me gone, I would give them exactly that. I packed my bags and left the town behind. No warnings, no goodbyes. I closed every account we shared and vanished without a trace. If you want to know how they reacted and what secrets surfaced after I left, stay with me. This is the story of how walking away saved my life. Our home looked picture perfect, but inside was a world of comparison. My sister was the star. I was the shadow. She won trophies and medals, while my wins never mattered. When I painted something beautiful, they called it a hobby. When she solved a math problem, they called it talent. Every dinner was filled with praise for her and silence for me. Even in play, I was told to step aside. If we fought over a swing in the yard, they always chose her. "Stop being selfish, Claire," my mother would say, and my father simply nodded in agreement. By the time I was 8 years old, I had stopped expecting recognition. No matter what I did, it was never enough for them. My sister became their pride, and I became their burden. The comparisons followed me everywhere, burning deeper each year. When she earned praise at school, I was invisible in the corner. When she won competitions, my small victories were ignored. Even family friends noticed the divide, but no one spoke up. It was easier for them to pretend that everything was perfect. But I knew better. I was living proof that it was not. My sister wore the crown of glory. I carried the weight of rejection. And every year that passed, the gap between us grew wider. Still, I tried to earn their love, even if it meant losing myself. But love never came. Only silence and cold stares. By the time I was a teenager, I had stopped asking for approval. I learned to hide my feelings, to bury my pain deep inside. But no matter how far I buried it, it always found a way to return. The anger, the sadness, the fire. It never truly left me. And one day, it would demand to be heard. That day came sooner than I expected. And when it did, nothing would be the same. Because that was the day I chose myself. People rarely stepped in, a hand on my shoulder, then silence. "Let it go," they said. keep the peace. By middle school, I learned to fade and dodge every spotlight. Hiding felt safer than being the target. But the jabs kept coming, sharper each year. My mother, Elaine, tracked my appearance like a ledger. Eat less. Stand tall. That top looks messy. Her breakfast critiques turned mirrors into enemies. I was healthy and slim, but doubt rewrote every glance. My father, Robert, weighed in on my future. Marketing clear. Why not numbers like the family? His voice made my dreams feel small. I still said I wanted stories, brands, ideas. He pointed to my sister as the example. Julia already had an internship. The bar kept rising. High school arrived and the volume turned up. Julia collected honors like magnets on a fridge. Her acceptance letter sparked a victory parade. My parents loaded the car and their feed. Proud posts, perfect smiles, a future star. Captions crowned her as a leader. I stayed home with a cheaper plan and bigger grit. Community college, night classes, rent to cover. I also helped at their office after lectures. Help meant errands, filing, and reception when needed. It was service, not trust. I learned systems from the lobby chair. Breaks stretched while I covered phones. Dating fit into leftover minutes. Most guys drifted when family calls ruled my time. One good man left after a tense dinner. He's kind, they said, but not ambitious like Julia. The comparison ended us. After graduation, I landed a junior marketing role. A small agency, real clients, real deadlines. Close enough to swing by my parents after work. I rented a tiny place 3 blocks away. Space to breathe, but within reach. Reach soon meant constant availability. One request at a time became a schedule. Elaine started having dizzy spells. Doctor said stress. She said, I need you. Rides to appointments filled my calendar. Don't worry, she said. I can't manage alone. Robert called during lunch to confirm the plan. Family first, he reminded me. Julia visited twice a year, bright and polished. A rising executive with a suitcase and a script. She booked hotels, then hosted praise sessions. Tell us about the promotion. Tell us about the trip. I poured coffee in clear plates. Invisible again in my own story. A bigger agency called once with an offer. Relocation required. I told myself, not yet. Loyalty will pay off, I thought. But the cost kept climbing. Resentment grew like vines around my throat. Winter hit hard and Elaine needed surgery. I turned my guest room into a recovery ward. Laptop on the kitchen table, phone on loud. Her requests never paused. Robert thanked me in passing, then checked his watch. Gratitude felt like duty wrapped in lace. Julia mailed a basket and a card. Her calls drifted back to her schedule. My life rarely made the agenda. Still, I kept planning Julia wedding details. Vendors, timelines, color boards. I poured myself into the project. I told myself this bridge could hold. The missing box was never the real problem. It was the door they wanted to kick open. Years of favoritism rushed through. Their words confirmed I was the outsider. Watching the stream, I felt hurt harden into clarity. They were fine without me, so I could be fine without them. Leaving was not revenge. It was return. A return to my own worth. The wedding should have been the turning point. Julia Bennett, my older sister. She planned forever with Ethan Cole. I threw myself into the details like a lifeline. Perfect flowers, perfect light, perfect schedules, perfect seating charts. I believed a perfect day might buy me a place. Belonging felt close enough to touch. Maybe they would say, "Good job, Claire." Maybe they would see me. Doubt still whispered in the quiet. Hope shot it back for one last round. I started early and stayed late. Every checklist felt like a promise. I called vendors after hours. I negotiated fees like rent depended on it. I mapped deliveries and backups. I rehearsed the flow until I could see it blind. I checked every box twice. I told myself this bridge I needed. I was wrong, but I did not know yet. I called the caterer and locked in Julia favorites, roasted chicken and herbed potatoes, light on garlic for Elaine. Every detail mattered because being seen mattered. I kept notes and backups for each choice. I chose pale peonies to match the soft palette. Julia once said she loved them in a magazine. The guest list turned into a maze of names and titles. Elaine wanted half the town on the list. I hunted down addresses and confirmed replies. I checked and checked again to avoid mistakes. 100 envelopes later, my hands ached. I pressed send on reminders and tracked each answer. Place cards took shape on my living room floor. I stayed up past midnight to get the spacing right. Every choice was a quiet ask for grace. Every step was a promise that I would deliver. Elaine and Robert barely looked up. I showed a menu and got a shrug. 2 seconds of attention and a critique. Julia would pick something more elegant, Elaine said. Robert added that perfection was the standard. I swallowed the sting and kept moving. Do not mess this up, he said without looking at me. I nodded and marked 3 new tasks. Their words cut, but I kept going. I booked the venue, a warm barn outside town. String lights, open beams, golden hour views. I confirmed the sound system and backup power. For photos, I hired Susan, a church friend of Elaine. Her smile was wide and her eyes skipped past me. She gushed about how radiant Julia would look. I agreed and wrote down her timeline notes. Susan rarely used my name. It was always your sister, your sister, your sister. Julia stayed mostly hands-off. Her texts were short and vague. Looks fine, she wrote. Do what you think. I handled the chaos alone. When she visited, the house turned into a stage. Elaine and Robert lit up for fittings and news. They asked about trips and promotions. I passed plates and listened from the edges. Laughter swirled around stories I wasn't in. I washed dishes and checked the seating plan. I offered one tweak to keep rivals apart. Elaine cut me off with a cool voice. Focus on finishing, not talking, she said. Robert nodded while Julia scrolled her phone. She did not look up. As the date neared, their critiques sharpened. Elaine called at 7 in the morning. Your email tone fell off, she said. I already rewrote it. Be careful next time. I had crafted that message for an hour. I apologized and fixed what was not broken. My stomach tied itself in quiet knots. Robert sighed over the final timeline. Julia would have finished this weeks ago, he said. I wanted to say I was doing 3 jobs. I chose silence and kept the plan tight. I told myself the day would prove me. Maybe then they would see. I dipped into savings for a gift. $2,000 for a vintage necklace, silver chain, a sapphire like twilight. I pictured Julia's smile and a quiet thank you. I also bought a simple navy dress for myself. Clean lines so Elaine could not call it tacky. I practiced a calm smile in the mirror, supportive sister on the outside, storm on the inside. I called Julia a week before to confirm timing. Please be early, I said. It will help. It mattered to them and it mattered to me. She agreed to drive down with Ethan. For once, it sounded simple. As the week closed in, my anxiety spiked. I checked the kick order and the playlist. I walked the lighting plan with the tech. I taped backups inside a binder. I texted Susan to confirm her arrival. She replied that she would make Julia shine. I said great and noted the time. The focus always circled back to my sister. My work stayed invisible by design. Elaine called daily with new roles. Make the napkins match the tablecloths. Keep the cars away from the barn doors. I wrote each line and added it to the run sheet. I double-checked deliveries and walk times. Vendors confirmed and backups ready. Robert reminded me about budget windows. He said no surprises and no drift. I balanced cost against quality. I chose value where it would not show. I paid extra where memory lives in photos. The plan was tight. The pressure was tighter. One more call, one more list, one more breath. I told myself I could carry it to the finish. I did not know a single scene could shift everything. That moment was already on its way to me.
Check the sound yourself so every vowel is clear. Her words should carry to the back row. The night before the final vendor run, I was spent. Coffee and willpower were all I had left. I brought Elaine and Robert a finished binder, every contract and receipt in order, a timeline tight enough to hum, tabs and notes lining the pages like rails. Elaine flipped through with a thin smile. "This is fine," she said, "but not at Julia level." She closed it and pushed it back to me. Robert did not look up from his screen. "Let us hope you do not drop the ball," he muttered. The dismissal landed harder than before. I lay awake replaying every word. Anger and desperation pressed on my chest. Why was I still chasing their approval? They had written my role long ago. I thought the wedding could shift the script. Stand beside Julia and be seen at last. Be part of the picture instead of the frame. But every sharp comment built a wall. Every ignored reply sealed another brick. I did not know the final push was close. A small mistake would become the reason. Not about decor, but about blame. The day before the ceremony opened in chaos. I was up at dawn, locking every detail. Caterer confirmed, DJ ready, files synced. My place looked like a war room of lists. I told myself it would all be worth it. Elaine and Robert hovered like judges. Expectations weighed more than boxes. That afternoon, I drove over with decor. Hope sat tight in my throat. Maybe they would see my work at last. A storm met me at the door. I carried a box of glass centerpieces. Weeks of hunting had gone into each one. Then I counted and felt my stomach drop. One was still at my apartment, a clean miss. I opened my mouth to explain. Elaine saw the gap before I spoke. "Where is the rest?" she snapped from the kitchen. Her tone cut across the room. Robert looked up from his couch, face hard. I said I will grab it now and fix it. Elaine slammed a palm on the counter. "You forgot again," she said, voice rising.
"This is not a practice run." Her words stung like a strike I knew well. Old echoes filled the room before I could breathe. Robert stood and let the anger show. "We have been patient," he said, "but this is too much and too late." I tried to say I was carrying this alone. Elaine waved it off as careless. "Always careless," she said. "Julia would have finished months ago." Julia stood by the stairs with Ethan, casual clothes and eyes on the evening plan. I looked at her for one small rescue. She stared at the floor and said nothing. Ethan shifted and checked his phone. Silence filled the space where help should be. Elaine's voice climbed another step. "We are done with your mistakes," she said. "If you want to help, then disappear." Her sentence hit like a door slamming shut. Robert nodded once, jaw locked tight. "It is time," he said. "You do not belong here." Each word carved into the fear I had carried. Wanted or not had its answer. Susan from the church stood by the flowers. She pretended not to hear and kept working. Julia looked past me as if I were air. No one stepped forward. For a long breath, I felt the room tilt. Then something fierce rose inside me. I set the box down and steadied my hands. I said I would return the missing piece. No one answered.
The message had already been sent. I picked up my keys and felt the weight lift. I walked to the door without asking permission. The air outside was bright and cold. I knew exactly what I would do next. I would make their wish come true. I would vanish and choose myself. I would stop holding the picture frame. I would step into my own shot. Behind me, a door clicked shut. Ahead of me, the road opened wide. For the first time, the map was mine, and I was done asking for directions. I drove home and started the plan. Sell the apartment, close the shared accounts, pack light, and move fast. By morning, Claire Bennett would be gone.
Susan froze and glanced between us without a word. Her pitying look stung worse than their anger. Heat crawled up my chest as I gripped the box. I wanted to shout back every insult they had used. My hands shook, but a cold clarity settled in. This was never about one missing piece. It was years of being cast as the problem, the one who did not fit the family picture. "Fine," I said, voice steady over the storm inside. "You will get your gift." I set the box down and turned for the door. The slam echoed like a line finally crossed. I did not sleep. I sat at my kitchen table. Their words replayed while the cursor blinked. Why spend years chasing approval from people who wished me gone? Morning light found me wide awake. I could not face the ceremony. A coworker streamed it and I watched on my phone. Julia glowed in satin while the crowd cheered. Elaine and Robert raised perfect glasses. My empty chair looked like the missing puzzle piece. Resolve clicked into place. If they wanted me gone, I would make it real. I started the plan that night. First, I called my boss for a personal day. I never asked for time, but I asked now. Then I called a real estate agent known for speed. Cash offers beat perfect prices when you need out. My apartment was worth more than the number on paper, but time was the value I wanted most. I reached out to a lawyer from a meetup. Karen Mitchell took my call at once. In her office, I laid out the years and the scene. Calm words over a heart still shaking. "I want a clean start," I said. "Not a pause, a reset." Karen warned me that it was a big move. She asked if I needed more time. I shook my head. I was done waiting. She outlined the rules in simple steps. You are an adult and can relocate, but joint accounts can get messy fast. I told her those funds were for shared costs, mostly my contributions for care and bills. She advised a freeze and a simple trust. Keep the money safe for its intended use. By the next sunrise, the wheels were turning. I met a second lawyer, Stephen Reynolds, for the numbers. He reviewed statements while I explained the pattern. Freezing them is smart, he said.
It prevents misuse and keeps intent clear. Open new accounts in your name only. Use a box address for privacy. I followed each step and kept the paper trail clean. Then I called my boss again to resign. Personal reasons. Gratitude. A short call. 9 years closed with 10 minutes. I promised a formal letter by email. Next came the hard edit of my life. What to take and what to release. I sorted everything into 3 small piles. Sell, donate, take. The take pile looked almost empty. Laptop, a few outfits, my old journal. A simple necklace from a teacher who believed in me. Everything else could find a new home. Julia texted once to ask if I was fine. I stared at the screen and let it fade. Elaine and Robert did not reach out. Silence said more than any apology. I boxed my life while the stream replayed in memory. Her smile, his toast, my empty place. It was not only rejection, it was a careful erasure. Line by line, I wrote myself back in. on my terms and in my own name. The plan was simple and final. Close the door, start the car, do not look back. I tucked the journal into my backpack. I slid the key off the ring for the last time. One last walk through the empty rooms. Walls held echoes, and then let go. I locked the door and faced the open road. The future waited without their voices. I chose the silence of my own company. It sounded like freedom. The sun dipped low as if to wave me on. I started the engine and did not hesitate. Goodbye to the version of me that stayed. Hello to the map I would draw myself. My hand steadied as the miles rolled. For once, the road did not loop back. It opened.
But with every box I sealed, I felt lighter, as if I was shedding years of their expectations. I was no longer the daughter they pretended not to see. By the end of that week, my apartment was nearly empty. I sold what I could, donated the rest, and prepared for a quiet exit. Woodhaven, Kansas would soon become just a memory. I was ready to disappear into a life where I could finally be enough. The door closing behind me wasn't just leaving a place. It was ending a chapter I had long outgrown. Driving back, my hands gripped the wheel. Their words, "You disappear from our family," echoed in my ears. But I wasn't running away. I was finally breaking free. Each decision in the following days felt like cutting another invisible chain. First, I finalized the sale of my apartment. The offer was lower than I hoped, but speed mattered more than money. I signed the papers, keys gone in a blur of signatures and envelopes. Next came the family accounts. I met with Stephen Reynolds, a financial lawyer I trusted to untangle years of sacrifice. So much of my money had gone toward bills under Elaine and Robert's control. Stephen tapped his pen, eyes scanning the figures. "Freezing the accounts is safest, Claire," he said. "Protect what you've built." By that evening, the funds were locked, accessible only for true necessities. For once, I wasn't their safety net. Karen Mitchell, another lawyer on my side, nodded firmly. "You're not just leaving," she told me. "You're reclaiming yourself." The words lit something inside me. The very next morning, I called my boss. My voice steady, I resigned from the job I had held for nearly a decade. "Personal reasons," I wrote, ending 9 years with a single sentence. The hardest part was packing, standing in rooms filled with pieces of a life I no longer recognized. Furniture, clothes, dishes, all felt like they belonged to a stranger. I kept only what mattered. My laptop, a few changes of clothes, my journal, and a sapphire necklace gifted by my teacher. The rest I donated, sold, or left behind. Each item gone was another weight lifted. I chose Tidewater, South Carolina, almost at random, a coastal town far enough to feel like another world. I didn't have a grand plan, only the instinct to chase sunlight after years of shadows. I loaded 2 suitcases into my car and hit the road. Interstate 95 stretched ahead like a promise. 3 days blurred past, gas stations, cheap motels, playlists loud enough to drown out the echoes in my mind. I paid in cash, my old phone silenced and tucked in the glove box for emergencies. Elaine texted once, "Where are you?" I never answered. Julia sent a softer, "Are you okay?" But I stayed silent. Robert didn't say a word at all. Their silence confirmed I had chosen the right road. Tidewater was smaller than I expected. its streets lined with weathered shops and the salt air heavy with promise. I found a cottage for rent overlooking the marsh, month to month, furnished, ready immediately. It wasn't perfect. Creaky floors, leaky faucets, windows that stuck in humidity. But it was mine. A space where no one demanded anything. I signed the lease under Elaine Parker, using my middle name to mark a fresh start. Not a disguise, but a declaration. I was no longer the Claire they rejected. I built a small freelance website marketing under the name Elaine Parker. Gigs trickled in slowly but surely. Each new email reminded me I was capable. Evenings, I walked the shoreline, letting the tide erase my old fears. The marsh smelled of salt and possibility. For the first time in years, I could breathe. There was no audience, no judgment, no impossible standards to chase. Just me building a life that was mine.
Platforms, logos, and social media campaigns. Nothing huge, but enough for rent and groceries. The work felt liberating, light, and real. Each brief proved I could build on my terms. It reminded me my value was mine to define. I started exploring Tidewater and its rhythm. Morning walks turned into small rituals. One day, I stopped at a cafe called Saltwater Brew. That is where I met Maria Lynn Thompson. She owned the place. Curls, warmth, easy grace. She handed me coffee and a curious smile. "New face, huh?" she said. "Tidewater is good for new beginnings." Her simple kindness caught me off guard. I nodded, not ready to share the past. A week after I settled, noise found me. My old phone buzzed in a drawer. A local group pinged with new posts. Elaine had written a public accusation. She claimed I ruined Julia's wedding. She said I vanished with family funds. The lie burned. I had frozen, not stolen. I protected what was meant for care. Robert chimed in below to back her story. "We trusted Claire," he wrote, "and she betrayed us." Julia stayed silent in the thread. A friend forwarded me her private note. "You did not have to abandon us like this." The words cut deep, but I did not reply. I had defended myself for years. I was done arguing my worth. I called Stephen to confirm the trust. He said the accounts were secure and working. Funds covered utilities and prescriptions. Requests needed receipts and approval. He flagged a 5,000 pull denied. It was labeled "wedding repairs without proof." "No documents, no release," he said. Their story crumbled, so they pushed harder. They painted me the villain to save face. Maria noticed my tight shoulders one morning. She slid my cup over with a raised brow. "Family trouble?" she asked gently. I gave a small smile and a small truth. "Something like that. Just needed a fresh start." She nodded, understanding more than I said. "Plenty of folks do the same here. You'll find your footing," she said. Each Tidewater day chipped away at old weight. I ran the marsh trails until anger softened.
Breath in, breath out. Room for new thought. Freelance inquiries grew one by one. Clients cared about skill, not family roles. It felt like proof that I belonged. Elaine sent another text. "We need to talk." I ignored it and kept moving. Julia followed with, "Please call. Mom is upset." I deleted it and chose quiet. Robert sent nothing at all. His silence said enough about my place. Setting boundaries felt like lifting stone. Guilt still tried to creep back in. I reminded myself who pushed me out first. One evening, I sat on the porch and watched the marsh. The still water held the sky in place. Something new arrived, quiet and steady. Peace. Not absence of pain, but room to grow. I was not failing their bar anymore. I was Elaine Parker, building my own. The words from Woodhaven still stung faintly, but they could not pull me back. I did not vanish to hurt them. I chose me, and I was only getting started. 3 weeks into Tidewater, the past clawed back. My old phone buzzed with a voicemail. Elaine's voice filled the tiny speaker.
Where are you? This is not how family behaves. Each syllable dripped with accusation. Minutes later, a text from Robert arrived. Your mother is in the hospital. Come home. My heart lurched at the old trigger. Guilt had been their favorite lever. I did not call back. I called Stephen instead. Please check the trust again, I asked. He confirmed the accounts were intact. Utilities and prescriptions were covered. Then came a new red flag in the log. A $10,000 emergency pool without proof. Denied, he said, pending real documents. I knew this hospital note was a lever, another play to yank me back into place. I chose not to step on the same trap. I chose the porch and the steady tide. I chose my new routine, not panic. If it was real, the paperwork would match. If it was not, the silence would tell me. Either way, I would not go backwards. I poured tea and watched the marsh darken. The night hummed with crickets and calm. A day later, an email arrived and changed the air.
An email popped up from Dr. Linda Evans. She was Elaine's doctor back in Woodhaven. I cannot share details, she wrote softly, but your mother is stable and not in danger. It is more emotional than physical right now. Her tone was careful, but the meaning was clear. A panic episode, not a heart attack. Elaine was fine, just spinning a crisis. It was bait to pull me back into place. I sat on the porch and let the truth land. Their goal was control, not care. I was not giving that control back. A second email slid in from Julia. The subject line said, I am sorry. She wrote that she had not seen how bad it was. Mom and Dad were out of line. Please call. We can fix this, she said. The words sounded sincere, but they carried no weight from years of silence. She had watched me vanish in my own house. I read her note twice and found nothing solid. I closed the tab and chose quiet. The sister I wanted did not exist. Chasing her approval was another trap. Online, the rumors kept climbing. A community page in town shared a post. Elaine claimed I had abandoned my family. She said I took their savings and ran. Michael added, we gave her everything. This is how she repays us, he wrote. The lies were bold and polished. The trust records showed every penny. Nothing was missing, nothing stolen. A local site even ran a short piece. Elaine said I ruined a wedding and left them broke. The irony burned brighter than the headline. They wished me gone and now played victim. I forwarded it all to Stephen. He drafted a clear statement about the trust, purpose, safeguards, and my contributions. Let them dig their own hole, he said. The truth is on your side, Claire. I walked to Saltwater Brew to breathe. Maria poured my coffee with steady hands. Family drama again? She asked. I nodded and told her the simple version. They say I stole and want me back in line. Maria leaned in with a look I knew. I left a controlling clan 2 years ago. They tried public shaming too. Best thing I did was stay gone. If you go back, what changes? She asked. Her question echoed what I already knew. Nothing would be different at home. Elena Robert would still see a problem. Julia would hold her silence like a shield. And I would lose the freedom I found. That night, I checked the trust portal. Denied requests sat in a neat row. $3,000 for repairs without proof. $5,000 for a medical rush, no record. Meanwhile, bills and prescriptions were paid. They were not destitute, they were loud. The show was for sympathy, not truth. I sent one short note to Dr. Evans. Thank you for the update, I wrote. The trust covers legitimate expenses. Please focus on Elaine's emotional care. That is where the real work lives. I kept it factual and closed the loop. Days rolled into weeks with calm edges. Tidewater shifted from refuge to home.
Clients praised my designs by name. My work stood on its own feet at last. Maria invited me to a small book club. People there knew only Elaine Parker, not the girl who shrank in her own family. I set up a canvas in the cottage. I started painting again at night. Patricia once called it a waste of time. Now, each brushstroke felt like a return. Guilt still tried to whisper sometimes. "You left them," it said from the dark. I answered with the truth I had earned. They pushed me out first, and I survived. Staying gone kept me whole. Another text came from Elaine. "We are family. Come home," she wrote. I deleted it and let the sea breeze in. I chose quiet over the old chorus. Michael stayed silent through it all. His silence said more than a speech. Julia sent one last soft check-in. "I hope you are safe," she wrote. I wished her well and did not reply. The marsh kept its slow green breath. The tide set a steadier clock for me. Each sunrise felt like a small permission. Permission to stay gone and become myself. Michael's silence continued, and I let it.
Julia's last message a week ago said, "I miss you." It went unanswered. I was not cruel. I was done looking back. I had learned something vital. Loving yourself can mean walking away, even when the ones who hurt you are family. Putting your worth first is not selfish. It is the only way to live honestly. If you feel trapped in a toxic bond, do not let guilt or duty chain you there. Your life deserves to be lived on your terms, not inside someone else's expectations. I did not disappear to punish them. I left to save myself, and I would make the same choice again. Thank you for staying with my story. If you had to walk away to find yourself, share a line below so others feel less alone. Hit like and subscribe if this helped. Send it to someone who needs to hear it. Sometimes the bravest choice is to choose yourself and keep going.